Alright, this is the first ever appearance of the Thunderbolts. No asterisks. Incredible Hulk 449. Modestly valuable issue, this one. Of course, the characters are not new. The team and their identities are. And this is their first outing. This was a preview / teaser for their series that would be launching after this. They reprinted this as well. Thunderbolts Prelude, I think it was called. Had a new cover with Hulk fighting Atlas Man. I like to mention when there is a reprint with new cover art like that because, as you know, I am a sucker for new covers reinterpreting old stories. Honestly, I don't like this cover that much. Hulk's proportions are weird. His head is far too small. It is Mike Deodato jerk art though. And we have Mike Deodato jerk art throughout. David Peter writes it. It's a good one-off issue too. You don't have to understand much of what is going on in Hulk's magazine to follow it. I feel dirty. I just called it a magazine. I guess you might need to know who the hell this is. I'll explain shortly. Here is Abe, code name Mark. Interesting to see that of all the Thunderbolts, he was the one we saw first. He was our introduction to the team on this page here. Oh God, I just had a thought. Was he the first one introduced? Historically, I mean. Strange Tales 123. That would have been 1964, I think. Atlas Man was Avengers 21. Yeah, that would be 65. And Fister, he'd be the other one. Strange Tales 140 something. 141, I think. So, yeah, obviously, after Mark, real name Abe. It's a different character, but I suppose you could say Baron Zero. He was in Avengers issue 4. But it was this Baron Zero's daddy. I wouldn't count it. So yeah, Mark was the first one. Andally just ran through most of their first appearances there. Didn't mean to do that in this video. This issue is Hulk fighting this new superhero team at a rodeo. We have, from left to right, Moonstump, a horse, that's not part of the Thunderbolts, Fister, Atlas Man, and Song Girl. And Hulk's big butt. Don't forget his big butt. This is, honestly, a really good introduction to a new team. Hulk is a tremendous choice to have a team fight. He is a very powerful, well, a very strong hero, and a whole team fighting him, or a whole team fighting him and losing, isn't bad. A team that can go up against the Hulk is still a team that can go up against the Hulk, regardless of if they won or lost. The Thunderbolts, of course, are actually the masters of evil in disguise. They are pretending to be heroes. Most of them, actually all of them, will over the years come to accept and believe in and prefer being heroes. Really clever in here to the Thunderbolts' real identities. This is before issue 1 of Thunderbolts came out. I wonder if anyone correctly guessed the twist from this. Atlas Man says that Moonstomp has history with the Hulk. She does. She was introduced in Hulk comics. Hulk 228 by Royce Sternum and John Buscema, brother of Sal Buscema, although she was designed by Jason Byrne. Right, the thing that needs saying is Thunderbolts was Kurt Busey. I don't want to talk about him. I don't like his run. The most credit I can give him is he selected a decent cast of characters and he set things up so that a better writer could take over the series eventually and make it great. I don't like Kurt Busey's run on Thunderbolts. I think it is flimsy and held up in high regard solely because of the twist of the first issue, which is, typically for Kurt Busey, just a rehash of a Steve Engle-time story. His Thunderbolts characters have no depth. They pretend to have depth, but they are all binary takes. They are either a good guy like Abe or Song Girl, or they are a bad guy like Baron Zero or Fister. Then you have Moonstomp and Atlas Man, who are the poster boys for Kurt Busey's deceptive attempt at a layered character. Atlas Man will be a hero in one issue, and then a bad guy in the next. That is meant to make people think that he is conflicted, or he is toying with the idea of being a hero, and he's been called back to his villain roots. But it is as binary as the other two. It's to create an illusion, alternating his character every issue. It's to make you think that you are seeing a character arc or a character grow. Let's explain Janice here. This was Hulk's companion for a while. I would say she is only really known because she happens to appear in this issue, which has some notability for other reasons. She first appeared in Hulk Future Imperfect in 1992, David Peter and Jorge Perez. Janice is the granddaughter of Dickie Jones and Marla from the future where Hulk took over the world. She arrived in the present day, well, first in the Troy-Jan War story. Hulk 413, 414, 415 and 416. There was a subplot in that. It was a lead-in to establish when Future Imperfect happened with regards to Hulk's ongoing series. But then she came back full-time in 443. She was on the cover, I remember it, Mike Deodato jerk art again. She came back in time to get Hulk's help with something, and she was being chased by a bounty hunter. She's not an interesting character, and I like Dickie Jones, and I like Marla, but I would rather be reading about them than their alternative reality granddaughter, who Mike Deodato jerk draws like he draws all his women. Subplots here, Henry Guy Ritchie and Colonel St. Lawrence. She goes nowhere. Much like Janice, a lot of the subplots and secondary characters from this period of David Peters' run don't get off the ground. It is near the end of the run, but it is not so near the end of the run that they don't have time to fucking resolve half this shit. He still has shy of 2 years on the title left. The leader of the Thunderbolts is V-Man, who is really Baron Zero, Captain America's nemesis. With the Thunderbolts, they all have new identities. The new identities themselves aren't that good. In fact, Moonstomp and Fister both gone back to their hard ones. Song Girl is decent. Mark, he gets a bunch of redesigns, but now can top his Beetle armour. And I guess Atlas Man is fine for what it is. But V-Man is the standout. I reckon V-Man is a good design, independent of the stories or the character attached to it. I think Marvel would agree, and that is why they kept introducing new V-Men to keep the character and design in play, even without Baron Zero behind the mask. And eventually, V-Man got a mini-series. That time it was Baron Zero. And then he got another mini-series after that. That time it wasn't Baron Zero. My feelings on David Peter are complicated. I would say in general, I don't like him. But I do tend to seem to like a lot of his comics. By themselves, maybe. Is a long-term plotting, I don't like that. I don't know. It could even just be the case that as time goes on, I am being stretched thin in pursuit of comics I enjoy. And so I have come to tolerate or even like David Peter, because it isn't as bad as what I think bad comics are. I don't really like his voice, the constant sarcasm and pop culture references. I don't like that. That's not really in this issue though. And then there's something like this. On the surface, it's put together well. We have a good first appearance of the Thunderbolts. There's stuff that I don't like as much, like Janice, who is both boring and a really lousy excuse for Mike Deodato Jerk's typical cheesecake. But there is nice action, decent fighting. Hulk is always at his best when the writer knows a big part of the appeal of the character or the title is that people want to see him smash things. Realistically, we don't get to see all the Thunderbolts do that much, but I think they are each set up just enough that someone who read this might consider reading their first issue. And to those people, sorry. It is going to be 34 issues until we get a Thunderbolts book worth reading. That one also starts with a Hulk fight. Fabio Niciez's first issue by himself. That one has him fight Hulk again. Another in is that Hulk recognises Moonstomp's voice, but he cannot place who she is. Nice little wink, but Kurt Busey fucking ruins it. Kurt Busey insists that they all had massive cosmetic surgeries and vocal realignments so that nobody could ever know who they are. I quite like the ending. Hulk endangers an entire town. He breaks open a dam. He floods a town. And so the Thunderbolts have to save people. And that is better plotting than anything Kurt Busey does. You see, what David Peter has actually cleverly done here is he has presented the pretend heroes with a scenario where their facade has to be maintained at the expense of a defeat. They could pursue Hulk and continue the fight, but whether to bolster their image or because they feel the compulsion, the Thunderbolts have to abandon the fight to save the innocents. And that is what Hulk expected them to do. Don't like the way that V-Man is drawn on this page. Very off-model. The Thunderbolts will actually make one more appearance in this series. Well, one of them will. In 2 issues' time, we have V-Man again, drawn even more off-model. He simply recaps some of the events of this issue, but that small appearance is usually overlooked or forgotten about by fans. You know what? I do recommend this. David Peter is... I think the real problems with David Peter begin when you start reading a lot of his comics. If you read through his run on somewhere, if you instead focus on select issues like this, he is a much stronger writer than you remember. Maybe he is upholding the same sort of con as the Thunderbolts. He is, through single issues, convincing people that he isn't a bad writer. But over an extended period, you will come to realise he is actually quite a bad writer in disguise. I do recommend this. I've already said that, but if you want to know if I recommend it, I do. 7 thumbs up.